Hello and welcome to Her Voice with Robin.
And Olivia.
And today we have such an incredible guest. It is project coordinator Mary Hayes, who works for 2 Into You by Women's Aid, which is an incredible public awareness and education campaign run by Women's Aid in Ireland. The campaign focuses on helping young people recognise unhealthy and abusive behaviours in relationships. Thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate you being here. We want to learn so much from you and hopefully it will help our viewers. But you've been to DCU before?
Yeah, I did my undergrad here, so it's very weird.
Oh,
yeah,
did
I
you?
did communications.
You did communications?
That's same as us. All of us actually, all communication students.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now, it was a long time ago. Was it 2010 when I graduated?
Right.
So, God, I can't even think. That's like 16 years ago. Oh my God, I feel so old.
Stop.
But yeah, it's really weird being back. But it's really cool as well because it's changed loads. And
I can't imagine. Is this your first time being back since you've graduated?
No, I was back for the MPS, you know, the 24-hour
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we know the
Yeah.
broadcast. But yeah, just to start off, can you tell us a little bit about the 2 Into You campaign and what it aims to do?
Yeah, so the campaign, it's over 13 years old now. So it was started because we saw an increase in young women in particular coming to use the services in Women's Aid. So we saw a lot more young women calling the helpline, using the one-to-one services. We also have like a drop-in service as well in Dublin City Centre. So we wanted to create like a specific place for young women to find information about intimate relationship abuse, domestic violence, whatever you want to call it. It often goes by a number of kind of different names. But we wanted to create a specific place that talks about it because the way it happens can be different when you're in a younger relationship. So if it's your first relationship, you've nothing to compare it to. Because often I suppose we have this idea of, you know, domestic abuse or domestic violence only kind of happening in older relationships.
In marriages.
Living together. So in 2020, the law actually changed in Ireland to say that you don't need to be living with a partner to seek legal protection from them. So that also, you know, showed us that the law sees the abuse that, you know, young women experience as serious enough to warrant support. So that was really affirming, I suppose, to show that the experiences that young women are having in these abusive relationships are just as bad as
and just as important to bring awareness to as well.
Exactly. And I suppose with 2 Into You as well, we're trying to kind of reframe romance because, you know, so much of what we learn on like from TV shows and pop culture, songs, you know, our friends, our families, the world around us, it kind of holds like romance and like you know, over the top gestures and things like that so highly. So, but we know from our research, and you know, Women's Aid's been supporting victims and survivors now for over 50 years, so we really understand like the dynamics of abuse, and often romance or abuse can look like romance. So that's why the campaign is called 2 Into You, because while it can feel really lovely if you start going out with someone and they're into you, if they're too into you, then that could be a red flag for abuse. So we're trying to reframe what romance actually is and what real love actually is.
Wow, that's incredible.
Is that kind of like what inspired the creation of the campaign, and what particularly is important like right now to use in the campaign?
Yeah, so I suppose when we started to see that increase in young women using the services and seeking help, we wanted to do research on the prevalence of abuse for young women in Ireland because there hadn't been a study done before on it. So we did a national study on the experiences of young people in general in their intimate relationships, so aged 18 to 25. And what we found is that it was really, really gendered, so that it was majority young women who experience abuse. So it's actually a lot more common than we think. So it's 1 in 5 young women aged 18 to 25 will be abused by a current male partner or ex. And actually for the majority of those girls, the abuse started before they were 18. So, you know, they technically would have been children or minors. And again, you know, that's most likely going to be their first relationship. So again, they'll have nothing to compare it to. It can be so easy to kind of get swept up in, you know, the romance and feeling like, you know, it's my time. So that's why as well we wanted to create the campaign and the project to really answer that call to young women specifically who are needing support.
Of course. Do you think since the rise of social media like TikTok and Instagram, and also a lot of media and music, television, have romanticized abusive like possession, jealousy, you know,
Yeah.
body language, even like grabbing an arm, anything like that can be perceived as romantic a lot in pop culture.
Yeah.
Toxic relationships in TV and movies. Do you think with the rise of social media that has had a big effect on the figures and the amount of numbers of women coming to you?
Well, I suppose it's kind of done two things. It's kind of the chicken or the egg. You know, you're thinking, is it that more people are coming forward? Is it that it's happening to more people, or more people know what abuse actually looks like, and they're like listening to themselves and taking themselves seriously and saying, actually, yeah, this isn't okay, and I need to talk to someone about this, which is really, really good. You know, but domestic abuse, coercive control, this has been around for centuries. But I suppose with you know, how fast now media is moving, there's always more and more examples of what that might look like in pop culture, and in books, in TV shows, in songs, in films, and now with like reality TV and social media, like there's so much more stuff to consume. And I suppose, you know, particularly with things like Instagram, you're really only kind of seeing the surface, the glossy, the kind of, you know, relationship goals, couple goals, you know, the princess treatment kind of stuff, when actually, like, that's not what real love is. Real love is actually, it's not even that it's boring, it's quiet. You know, it's kind of quiet,
It's calm.
It's calm.
It's peaceful.
Exactly. And it's where, you know, it just, you slot into it, and the person that you're with, they celebrate you and they don't try to change you. You know, they've got your back, they're your cheerleader. But it's just that, you know, spending time together is easy, and spending time away from each other is easy. But I think, especially with social media now, there's so much expectations that, like, love has to look a certain way. It has to be these big grand gestures. Like, you know, you'd see certain content creators talking about, you know, if he's not buying you 5 bunches of flowers before, you know, every time he sees you, if he's only buying you 1, then that's not a real relationship. Like, that is ridiculous.
It's
like,
silly.
that is not a measure of love and care and respect.
Exactly.
It's a measure of how many bunches of flowers can you buy.
Just also with reality TV, I feel like we've been seeing a lot more abusive behaviour being normalised or romanticised. For example, with Love Island, I know Women's Aid spoke out last summer. Do you think it's important to educate young women when they're watching reality TV like that on this, you know, the patterns and you know what the women are going through?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, unfortunately, we've kind of started back down a slippery slope into like more misogyny and moving away from, you know, listening to women and believing women. We've also seen a rise in like things like trad wives and like really strict gender roles, and I constantly see that playing out in reality TV. I don't know if you watch MAFS, like Australian Married at First Sight. Like the amount of times that they say things like, you know, I want to step into my feminine energy and I just want a man who's going to take control and take the reins, like, which is fine, but that shouldn't mean that then you have to take a back seat and that your rights take a back seat because you want a guy who's going to be the breadwinner. Like, he can be the breadwinner, but that doesn't mean that you should have to give up any of your rights or your ability to, you know, communicate your boundaries and things like that, or make decisions or choices about your life. So I suppose it's hard with reality TV because they just want the really good edit. You know, they want the thing that's going to be the most shocking and that's going to get the most views. So, like, for example, when, you know, with particular people that we've seen, you know, those kind of gaslighting behaviours being brought back onto shows later on, like we hear, you know, channels saying, well, this is terrible, and then they're replatforming.
Of course.
You know? So
Love Island's gone on
them.
they're going to have 2 seasons since Women Aid spoke out about Harrison's behaviour last summer. I think a big part
they
of
brought
me,
him back on.
They brought him back on.
Yeah, so there's no accountability. And it shows, really what it shows young men is, you can get away with this. So you can do this, you can act this way, and you'll be fine.
And actually benefit. Getting social media following,
get brand deals, get more money,
get promoted even more. I think a big aspect of I've been seeing with reality TV is sexual partners, body count, and one rule for women and one rule for men. Have you experienced any sort of misogyny or women feeling guilty or any aspect in that certain field of body count? Because I think the amount of misogyny towards women and men is disgusting in that specific realm of sexual partners. Yeah,
big time. I mean, look at the messages that, you know, girls are given growing up. It's that, and even if you're not given them directly, these are the things that are you're validated for, or you're celebrated for achieving. So being quiet, you know, looking like the proper woman, you know, shaving under your arms, shaving your legs,
Yeah.
wearing makeup, you know, having your hair done,
Wearing heels.
wearing heels, which are all fine, but you definitely benefit from the system of patriarchy, and that is the thing that we applaud. So I suppose, hold on now, I've lost my train of thought, sorry.
It's completely okay.
So, you know, in particular, we see this play out in abusive relationships, okay?
Yeah.
Because sex becomes like a battleground for control and for somebody to gain and maintain power and control over another person. So I haven't explained that yet, but basically what abuse is, it's a pattern of controlling behaviours that somebody uses to gain or maintain power and control over another person. So sex becomes the perfect tactic for that to happen. So, you know, you also see like emotional abuse and gaslighting and things like that coming into sex as well. So say if a girl has had sexual partners before, you know, that her partner might shame her or might, you know, withhold sex or, you know, like tell her basically that she's a slut, you know, and use it as a tool to like put her down, and tell her, you know, that she's not worth, that no one else will love her because she has a high body count, you know.
Of course.
But then we don't hold men to those same
Or that they're not
standards.
marriage worthy. That's what I hear a lot of the times. You
Yeah.
don't want to be in a relationship or marry someone who has a body count. Even like I watch Love Island and they'll shame a woman for having 8 to 10, which is, I think it's extremely average figure. And they'll have over 75 and they're
Yeah.
like, I don't want
Yeah.
to bring him home to my mum.
But then the
Yeah.
lads are praised for that as well.
Yeah.
For the high body count, where the
Yeah.
girls are looked down upon.
Yeah. So again, like that is the messages that we hear from society, you know, that boys, they should be dominant, they should get the girl, you know, they should get multiple girls, they should be successful. And this is all the kind of stuff as well that you hear from the manosphere, from red pill creators, you know, or just from like men who are creating content about wellness and success and money and dating. It all is this massive slippery slope. And Debbie Ging, who's a professor in DCU,
She's our dissertation supervisor.
Yeah.
oh my god, she's such a queen. So she is
She has a lot on gender studies
Yeah.
and
Yes.
manosphere. She does.
So she is the expert on the manosphere. So she has been studying the manosphere for over 10 years, even before it became known.
The social media trend.
And basically, they did a massive study in the Centre for Bullying and Harassment in DCU. And what it found was that even though, so they set up these fake accounts and they set them to male and to, I think, like 18 to 25-year-olds. And they basically let the accounts just interact. They didn't search anything specific out, but the fact that they were male accounts, they were fed misogynistic and sexist content within the first 20 minutes. Like that was the majority of them. And the thing that she always says is that boys, you know, they don't have they're looking around for role models. They want to understand what it is to be a young man. They want to find their way in the world. And they're looking for content on, you know, how to date women, how to be successful, how to be healthy, how to
act on a date.
Yeah, how to look after yourself, you know, which are fine things, but then they're being met with these people who actually just want to make money from them, because these are all these like red pill and manosphere creators. It's a money model. Like they sell these courses to, you know, quote unquote improve men, when actually they just want to exploit the things that they feel weak for,
And also
you
their
know?
vulnerability.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Their
Yeah.
young age. With the red pill community, obviously this has been around for over a decade. But did you find that a rise of social media trends like Andrew Tate, the red pill community, have you seen a huge increase in that with the amount of women who are coming to you with these sort of problems, men believing this and then therefore attacking women for not following the manosphere's logic or beliefs?
The biggest thing that we're seeing is non-fatal strangulation. So it's something that's become really, really normalized from a number of different sources. So manosphere creators are one thing, you know, they say you have to choke your girlfriend. Porn also has really normalized and romanticized, you know, really rough and
Violent
aggressive
sex.
violent sex, and choking has just become so normal. When actually by law choking is non-fatal strangulation.
It's a crime.
Yeah, because you cannot actually continue consent because
Yeah,
your
you
airway
can't
is
speak.
being cut off. Exactly.
Right.
And also, you know, I think there are so many girls out there who are consenting to being choked or to being strangled, but who actually have been coerced or guilted or manipulated into it because of, you know, the control that their partner has over them.
Feeling unsafe if you say no.
Yeah, exactly. Or feeling like there'll be consequences, and they may not be, you know, physical consequences. It could just be the cold shoulder, the silent treatment, you know, these tools that we see in emotional abuse all the time, that are the things that tip away at someone and actually wear down their self-esteem and their ability to listen to their gut. So it's really, really powerful, unfortunately. But this is one of the biggest things that I hear from our services team who deal directly with young women who are currently in abusive relationships, that they are consistently being choked by their
because young
boyfriends.
men aren't being taught about sex in the best way, and there's no age verification on porn. Obviously there's a whole data reason as to why, but yeah, have you found that men are now using violence more than just strangulation because they're learning from porn, unfortunately, and the moneymaker, unfortunately, are the porn videos that show abuse.
The multi-billion-dollar pornography industry, you know. Often when you're like critical of the porn industry, people think like you're a prude, but you know, there's all types of porn out there. But the thing is, mainstream porn, and this is you know, backed up by international evidence and research, that the vast majority of mainstream porn depicts like really degrading violence against women. We're not just talking about choking here. Like I could give you lists as long as this room, you know, of like the horrendous things that are being done to women. And you know, people often say like porn isn't real, but the women who are behind the camera are real women who these things are being done to them. And then guys are seeing these things and they're thinking, okay, that's normal, because they're not learning about it in school, so they're searching it out.
They think it's real.
They think it's what girls want.
And they think it's what girls want, because obviously you have a girl saying, oh yeah, that feels amazing, and she's always orgasming in the video, always.
Fake.
Yeah, not real, obviously. But you know, there's always a climax. We always see her come, even if it is fake, which probably majority of the time it is.
Yeah.
And the thing as well with it is, boys don't understand that they will become aroused by that, even if they don't find it exciting. So, you know, as their brains develop, they're you're constantly seeking out further and further violent content. And like all the studies point to this, that the more you watch it, the more likely actually you are to commit violence against women. So it's really, really harmful. So it's not even particularly that we're seeing a rise in it. I think it's always been there, but the availability of porn and free mainstream violent porn now is the problem.
Lack of regulations against it.
Yeah,
of course. You have a very important role as project coordinator. What does a typical day look like for you when you're doing this role for Women's Aid?
I mean, every day is different. Sometimes I'm here doing podcasts with lovely people like yourself. Other days, well, tomorrow, for example, we're recording an episode of our own podcast.
I follow you on social media. It's
cool.
incredible. I watched that on TikTok.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so we launched a podcast. It's called the 2 and 2 podcast last February, and it's kind of just a space like this, you know, for like further discussion, not just about like the difference between healthy and unhealthy relationships, but also we talk about like consent, boundaries. We talk about abuse in LGBT relationships. We hear from different young women who've experienced abuse, and like how they've created, you know, a life after abuse, that there is hope after abuse.
Of course.
But really it's a space for, you know, particularly young people to kind of learn more about this. So tomorrow we're recording an episode of that, and then next or 2 weeks time I'm going down to Kerry, because one of the youth services down there is getting loads of other youth services in, and they're doing kind of a speed round thing where like 3 people will come every 2 minutes and we'll give them a quick blurb about what supports are available, what 2 and 2 is. Then sometimes we can be working towards having a stall at a music festival. We could be coming to a college to do a talk. Could be linking in with people who support young people, doing training. So like every day is different. Yeah, but like I absolutely love my job.
Does that make the job enjoyable? That it is different.
Yeah, big time.
Do also, last thing before we go on to the next question, obviously when you're working in a charity, it can get incredibly taxing on your own mental health, especially when you're hearing such horrific stories. What has been your experience with that, or what do you practice now to kind of be able to put that hat down and still live your own life?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because like I'm tied to this because I am a woman. So this is personal work for me, you know.
Of course.
And even when, you know, I close the laptop, I'm still a woman walking through the world, existing in the world, who
Watching social media.
watching social
Going
media.
on dates.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm A, married, and B, I'm gay.
Oh, perfect. That's the dream. That's the dream.
Perfect.
So, you know, like even going outside the world can be difficult, you know. So it can be hard to switch it off, but like I've a very good team who I work with, and they're really, really good at their jobs, and we really support each other. But we're also really good at telling each other, like, okay, let's take a break here. So, you know, we'll take turns on like even monitoring the social media, because oftentimes there'll be lots of horrible comments on there.
Yeah.
So you have to turn it off. But outside of work, I tend to just read a lot of crap and like watch a lot of crap, because work is so serious that I just watch and read like dribble basically.
Just want to switch off.
Yeah, a lot of like Real Housewives and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Love that. And then the campaign obviously focuses on a lot of young women. Her campus is a society with majority young women. Why is that age group so important to reach?
Yeah, well, I suppose because of the ideas that we have around domestic abuse or coercive control and who it happens to, but also because there are so many girls going through this who have, you know, don't realise that they're currently in an abusive relationship. B, they know what's happening, but they don't know where to go for support, or C and D, the list goes on. C, that they have gone through it and they're still struggling with it, and it's affected their self-esteem and their relationships, both like friendships and intimate relationships. Or D, you know, because so many of us will know someone who is either currently going through this or will have gone through it before. So, you know, especially with friends, like we always get asked, like, what do I do if I'm worried about a friend? And like I always find it so lovely to hear that question, because people are worried about their friends, and they want to help, because you know, years ago the narrative was, well, this isn't my business, this is, you know,
their marriage, their business
their
is what I've heard.
relationship. I don't want to meddle, you know, it's not my place. When actually we need to meddle in these, because there are too many women who have gone through horrific experiences, and there also have been 278 women in Ireland who've been killed in violent circumstances. Yeah. So, you know, it is our duty to look out for the women in our lives.
And isn't it true that over 90% of it is done by their domestic partner, and a lot of the times in their home?
Yes, the majority was done by a current or ex-partner. So like take for example Jennifer Poole, like she was 24. You know, like we think that again, like the women who were killed are like older women, you know, but actually it's majority of them were aged under 35. So it's like the girls around us. But the thing with abuse, it's so insidious, you know, it's slow, it's often not obvious. It can feel like love, it can feel, you know, confusing, it can feel up and down. Like sometimes the relationship feels great, and then other days it can change, because again we have this idea of what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be, you know, the bruise, the mark, the physical thing, but actually it's the emotional side of it that keeps people trapped, you know, telling you where you can or can't go, telling you, you know, who you can or can't talk to, how you can dress, you know, wanting to look through your phone, accusing you of cheating or lying,
going through follower accounts. I know that a lot of the times it's ridiculous, going through your contacts, your messages, which are private.
Exactly.
Nothing to do with them.
And just trying to place that, you know, blame back onto you, just pushing it away from themselves. So I suppose that's, you know, with the campaign, we just want all young people, but in particular young women, to know what abuse looks like, what the early warning signs are, so that they can spot them early, because the longer you're in a relationship like that, the harder it can be to find support.
And hopefully find hope that there is also life after abuse.
Exactly.
You also have an incredible, healthy relationship after abuse. Do you think that the fact that it is a free 24-hour national helpline helps a lot of young women due to like affordability issues or lack of resources in the area that they're surrounding? So do you think that, you know, the fact that it's free, it's 24 hours, has helped the increase in figures of women coming to you.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, it's not just free in 24 hours, it's available in over 240 languages. So if your first language isn't English, there's interpretation service. We also have an email support service, a text support service, and we have the chat support service at 2intoyou.ie, and that was set up specifically with young people in mind, because we wanted to make it more accessible.
Yeah,
but at
great
the same time, you know, picking up the phone and calling a helpline can feel really intimidating. And what I hear so often is, you know, girls saying, well, that's for people in crisis. I don't want to take the time or space away from someone else. First of all, you deserve support. If something feels wrong, it probably is, and it's better to reach out
Trust
and
your
talk.
gut.
Yes,
Trust
exactly.
your gut, exactly. And you know, the helpline, it's just a listening service. We don't ask, you know, identifying questions. We don't ask who you are, where you are, you know, what age you are, anything like that. It's just a space for you to kind of talk through what the relationship feels like. But also, so many people will never pick up the phone. So that's why we have things like the relationship quiz at 2intoyou.ie. So you can take that to see if your relationship is healthy or not. And really what it does is, it's just kind of a chance for you to start opening up and thinking about actually how your partner treats you. And often, like, the thing that I've been told most often in my job so far is that people have done the quiz, and that it's been the validating piece that they needed to say, actually, yeah, what I was thinking, that told me that I was right. And it just gave me the kind of push that I needed to, like, even just talk to my mom about it, or my sister, you know.
So good.
Wow, that's incredible. So what kind of work goes into running a campaign like this behind the scenes? Like, what are the main jobs when you clock in at 9 a.m. or whatever time you work?
Yeah.
Like, what are your top goals each
Well,
day?
I suppose for me it's different because I coordinate the project overall, so I'm always trying to think about how we can grow it, you know, how we can, you know, reach more people, how we can really make sure that our engagement is like maximized, that we're reaching as many young people as possible. But there's a project element of it where we're going out and doing like stalls and events and things like that, but the social media side of it is absolutely enormous. So we have Madeline, our project officer, and she looks after the social media, and it's a full-time job. So she's, you know, creating the content, she's looking like at the news, at pop culture, seeing what it is we need to talk about. She's also working with our campaign allies, so our volunteers who give up their time to like create content for us, and they're really the young people who are like the face of our campaign. And then, you know, we work with our survivor ambassadors as well, because we want to make sure that everything that we do is informed by the experiences and voices of survivors. But yeah, I mean, there is so much that goes into it, but Women's Aid, we've been around for 50 years now, and like even during the pandemic, you know, the team that I'm in, the communications and fundraising team, it was like 3 people, whereas now, and that was in 2020, like 5 years later, there's like 15 of us. So like it just goes to show how much of a need, you know, is there, but the support is there as well.
Okay, perfect.
Have you seen, obviously, definitely, but have you seen a real impact and feedback from people who've engaged with this campaign?
Yeah, definitely. Like, that's one of the things that I love about my job so much, is when you know, someone comes up to me at like a festival or something and they say, I took the quiz and it made me realise that actually, yeah, it was an abusive relationship, and it gave me the strength, not even to leave, but to start to think about it, you know, or to prioritise myself. So really that's what I'm always just trying to do, is just to validate people's experiences and to listen to them and to believe them, you know, because when you're in an abusive relationship, you'll be told, you know, no one's going to believe you. This is all your fault. If you didn't act this way, you know, I wouldn't do A, B or C. If you just did what I said, things would be fine. And that's why you're always trying to change your behaviour, you know. So I'm just always trying to validate people's experiences and tell them, you know, we believe you and that there's support here for you if and when you need it. But yeah, so like we've people coming up to us at events. We also have people who will write to us on social media and things like that. But often it's kind of, you know, years later. So it could be 5, 6, 7 years since they've been in the relationship, and it's only then that they realise, oh, actually, you know, I saw one of your posters in a Portaloo at Electric Picnic, and it made me realise, oh Jesus, yeah, the relationship I was in when I was 17, that was definitely abusive. And the thing is, we have to take those experiences of abuse seriously as well,
Of course.
because it is all the same kind of tactics that we hear. And unfortunately, I suppose the thing with abuse when you're younger, it can impact the rest of your life.
I was going to say, just because it's in the past doesn't mean
Yeah.
you still aren't affected by it.
Exactly. So think about it, as a young woman, like even finishing school, maybe you're thinking about what it is you want to study, where you want to live, what you want to work in, what course you want to do. You're starting your life, and if you have someone over your shoulder saying, you're not good enough for that, don't bother, move in with me, let's just move in together, I'll look after you, I'll pay for everything. That while it can feel really lovely, then you can become trapped and controlled, and it can be really hard then to build up your life.
Do you have a lot of people who come to you and say, look, I got hit, I got abused 10, 20 years ago, but it's still affecting my day-to-day life, and also my hope in future relationships with even healthy, proper, incredible men?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it affects your self-esteem, and your sense of self and your self-confidence and your opinion of yourself and your abilities, or even like your ability to make decisions or choices about your own life. So like Jodie is one of our survivor ambassadors. She was in an abusive relationship when she was from the age of 17 to 19. She's one of the first people in Ireland to get a coercive control conviction against her ex-partner. And like what he put her through was absolutely horrific. Like there was a lot of violence involved in it, but she says consistently that it was the emotional side of it that kept her trapped. And even to this day, like it's like 6-7 years later, and like he's since been in prison and everything. She now doesn't live here anymore. That she still like checks the back seat of her car when she gets into it, because she's always afraid, like, will he be there? And even when she's not in the same place as him, it's always the fear that, well, could he be there? Because even if you leave the relationship, often that's the most dangerous time, because the person has lost that power and control, and they will do everything they can to get it back.
And they unfortunately know where you live, know where you hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's horrific.
And that's why, stalking in particular is one of the biggest indicators of femicide. So of, being killed by your partner. Because say you break up and then you're doing whatever it is you're doing, hanging out with friends, but they know your movements. They've maybe been watching you, or they know what your routine is, they know what your class timetable is, they know where you live, or where your friends live. So it's much easier then for them to be able to find you.
And also threatening your partners, or threatening your friends, threatening your mother and your father.
Yeah,
like
isolation.
I've heard a lot of that.
Yeah, isolation is a really it's a really effective tool of coercive control, because it cuts you off from the people around you who can tell you, well, that's not okay, or that's not normal. Because they do that so that your partner becomes the only person in your world. And then it can be so easy for their voice to become your internal voice, you know?
Like I've had friends before that definitely have controlling partners, and I'll tell them, I'm a bit worried for you, and then the boyfriend will be like, oh, she's just not happy for us, she's jealous of our relationship, and then they'll cut it off with you. And then thankfully this friend, when they did break up, she came to me and was like, I'm so sorry, like you were right or whatever, but her boyfriend made her completely isolate herself from me and my friends, because we were just looking out for her.
And I think that's as well why we have to be so careful, when we talk about this, because it can be so easy to like move into like victim blaming, because you say, well, she isolated herself, or she defended him, or she went back to him. That happens in every single controlling relationship. Abuse is a traumatic experience, and because it's traumatic, the brain goes into a fight or flight or a freeze response, and that is uncontrollable, and that's a survival mechanism. So often people in abusive relationships will do things out of that trauma response,
out of character
to stay safe,
Yeah.
you know, and they won't say that that's what they're doing, you know, because it's unconscious. It's an unconscious survival mechanism to that the trauma of abuse. But it can be hurtful, you know, as a friend. But that's why it's so important, if you are worried about a friend, sometimes we need to put ourselves aside, you know, and just stay present with them.
Yeah.
And, you know, just remind them, hey, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
And even if they're like, they ignore you, whatever,
Yeah.
hopefully in time they will come back to you.
We found that a lot of your events have been so incredible. For example, like your self-love club event for Valentine's Day. How important are those events in raising awareness and kind of getting more eyes on you and your campaign and your goals?
Yeah, so around Valentine's Day, up until International Women's Day on the 18th or the 8th of March, we run a kind of national awareness campaign focused on kind of reframing romance and teaching people what 2 and 2 is, because that tends to be a time where there's a lot of talk, you know, in our own lives and online and things like that around like love and romance and what it is. So this February we ran what was called the Self-Love Club. So it was basically a collage making space, and it was facilitated by a fantastic artist, Lindsay Merlehan. And it was basically just to kind of create a safe space where people could come and create something, like do something with their hands, to kind of come back into your body. Because, you know, when you've experienced something traumatic, like being in your body can feel really unsafe. So even like creating, you know, you can be really critical of yourself doing things like that. So we just wanted to make a space where people could just come and just make a collage, and that there was no like right or wrong, and it was like judgment free, and you could just come and have fun and meet other people. And like loads of people came on their own, and by the end of it, every single person was chatting to one another. Like the room was so it was loud, you know, but it was really, really gorgeous. Beautiful, so we're hoping to do some more of those. But, you know, because this is where these conversations happen. It's not just like on, you know, the 2 and 2 podcast talking about intimate relationship abuse. It's like amongst your friends. It's in the girls' bathroom on a night out. You know,
corner of a pub.
Yeah, the corner of a pub, exactly. It's when you're getting ready together. You know, it's when you're out for a walk. It's the everyday conversations. This is how we change this and bring it out of the shadows. You know, similar to marriage equality and the abortion referendum. Like those things changed around kitchen tables. So like this is what we need to do. We need to talk about it more. So it becomes more normalized.
So those events are really helpful.
Yeah.
Perfect. Obviously the website uses really bright, approachable visuals, and you have incredible interactive tools like quizzes and short videos to explain terms like love bombing. How important is this kind of design in making these difficult topics feel less intimidating for women?
Yeah, well, I suppose, you know, no one's going to click on a video that says what is, you know, sexual violence. So, you know, we really want to engage young people and help them learn about kind of more complex stuff like coercive control, like gaslighting, like love bombing, like consent, but in a way that's accessible. Because as well, you know, our attention spans, like it's so easy to just scroll on, you know, so you have to catch people really, really quickly.
Brand design is so important.
Yeah, big time. But also, you know, creating stuff that's like native and feels normal. So like on TikTok, you know, we'll have some of our volunteers doing a video where they're doing a get ready with me, but they're explaining like what love bombing is.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's something that you can watch, like you can watch it with your sound off because there's subtitles. And also if you're with somebody who maybe it isn't safe to watch it with, it looks like you're watching a get ready with me. So you
didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So, you know, I suppose we just want to get to people where maybe they didn't expect to find us, because it's always the people who know about us, maybe who don't need us, but it's the people who really need us don't know that we're there. So I suppose that's what we're always trying to do with all of our kind of like tools and resources, be it the podcast, the website, social media.
Yeah, that kind of follows along to like, how else do you approach talking about such sensitive topics such as abusive relationships in a way that connects with people who need your help?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the best ways to do it is to share survivor experiences. because it can make it easier then for you to see your own experience in someone else, you know, and it helps you feel less alone. But at the same time, then you're relying on, you know, women to come forward all the time and tell their stories, which we shouldn't need, you know. We know that this happens now, but that is definitely something I think that helps and validates other girls to know that, okay, well, that happened to her, that really sounds similar to my experience, so she got support, so maybe I deserve support too, you know. But even just kind of like broadening it out and talking about like relationships or like self-worth, and like on 2 and 2 we talk a lot about like friendship and the importance of like, you know, taking time for yourself and doing the things that you like to do and your hobbies, and, you know, continue like doing your interests and the things that like make you, you know,
your life outside your partner.
Yeah. Exactly. So, you know, that can often be a way of teaching people about controlling relationships without even saying, you know, control. Because you could just be talking about the fact that, you know, you have a class on a yoga class or something on a Wednesday that you go to, and that's your like time, and the fact that like you do that, you know, that's your routine. If someone then can't do that, you know, that helps them recognize, oh, actually maybe there's something wrong here.
Right, of course. Obviously, Women's Aid is a non-profit. How important are donations? And, you know, how important is societies doing events in aid of you, or everyone, even just a $5, or how important are donations to your cause?
Massively important. So the majority of 2 and 2 is funded by donations and fundraisers. So people in their communities, you know, organising events, doing things like runs, marathons, cold swims, you know, coffee mornings, college events, things like that. So like €1, a $5, that goes such a long way, because it's a drop in the ocean that creates that bigger ocean that we need. And I suppose the more we grow and the more awareness there is, the more people are coming to the service. And, you know, the helpline in particular, it's an expensive service to run. And the one-to-one services as well, there's so much more demand for those as well. So like we could not exist without people's generosity. So we are so grateful whenever people organise something for us, be it, you know, just a coffee morning amongst you and your friends, or like a larger event where you're raising like tens of thousands of euro.
Yeah, of course.
Last question then is, if someone is listening today who is affected by what we've discussed, what can they, where can they go for help and for more information?
Yeah, so the best thing to do is to head to 2into2.ie. So it's our website with all the information you need on, you know, what intimate relationship abuse is. It tells you the difference between healthy and unhealthy relationships. There's information on the red flags of abuse, so the early warning signs to look out for. It explains the different types of abuse, you know, what emotional abuse is, what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it feels like. It explains online abuse, financial abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse. Because often, you know, again, we have ideas of what these things are.
There's so many forms of abuse.
Many forms. But even like physical abuse, you know, you think there has to be the mark, but actually the threat of physical abuse is actually considered physical abuse. So, you know, it's really important for us all to go on to learn what abuse is and what it looks like, because, you know, if there is a friend in your life, it's really important that you know what it is, so we don't mislabel it as a relationship problem or something that could be fixed, and, you know, further, you know, blame and shame them. Speaking of friends, we also have a help a friend guide on the website. So if there's someone you're worried about in your life and you don't know how to talk to them about it, or you just don't know what to do, that's a really helpful guide on like what to say, what not to say, or how to just like stay present. Staying present and just checking in on them are the biggest things you can do. You don't, and actually shouldn't, tell them what to do, because that mirrors their abuser. So just, you know, reminding them that you're there is massively important. And then we've information on, you know, we have the stories from survivors page. So that's young women who've shared their story of abuse. And we have information on like legal protection. So if you need to get a barring order or a safety order. There's also a guide on intimate image abuse. So Coco's Law now says that, you know, Coco's Law, a lot of people know Coco's Law.
Thank God.
Yeah, which is great. So, you know, if somebody shares or threatens to share an intimate image or video of you without your consent, that's now a crime in Ireland. And it's actually also a crime to threaten to share an image or video of someone without their consent. And that's often what we see in abusive relationships, is that, you know, somebody will, a girl say will break up with her boyfriend, and then he will threaten to release images or videos of her, even though she sent those images or videos consensually while in the relationship. That is still a crime. And the guards are really cracking down on Coco's Law now, which is fantastic.
Thank God. Where can people go to donate, and also where can we follow you on your socials? I think everything's so social media heavy that we'd love to follow you.
Yeah, so if anyone would like to donate, they can just head to womensaid.ie, and there is a section there to get involved. And there's lots of different ways to get involved. You can organise your own event, or we also organise events that you can get involved in as well. And then social media, we're on Instagram and TikTok. So just search at 2intoyou. So it's TOOINTOYOU. And we really need people's engagement on social media, because we are up against algorithms and platforms that don't like the stuff that we talk about. The fact that we use real words like rape, assault, violence, we are constantly shadow banned. So, you know, for
Ridiculous.
people to engage, give us a like, a comment, say even, you know, love this is great. That can help us so much. And also, you know, resharing our stuff as well, even to your own story. You never know who might need to see it. Guaranteed there is somebody in your followers, even if that's 200 followers, guaranteed there is someone in there who needs to know that we're here for them. So please do give us a follow and engage it, because it could be a lifesaver for someone.
Wow. Women's Aid are an incredible non-profit organisation, an amazing resource to reach out if you are in need of any help, advice and overall support. We want to thank you so much for joining us. I think this is going to be so helpful for our female, mostly members. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So this is this week's episode of Her Voice. Thank you for listening. Goodbye. Thank you.
Perfect.
You
Thank
were
you so
incredible.
much.
Oh wow, it sounds really weird when you
Doesn't it?